Have you seen the CS2 shit fest that happened? I need a comprehensive article about what the fuck is going on with CS2, because supposedly $2 billion got wiped off of the CS2 mark. I don't even know, dude. I'm a boomer. The fact that billions are somehow associated with these cosmetics. How in this shit? Who the fuck is spending this much? Counter-Strike's 2 skin market just lost nearly $2 billion in value after knife updates. So from James Lucas here, overnight, Counter-Strike 2's market cap plummeted from 5.9 billion to 4.2 billion. I'm more, this right here is what blows my mind. Setting its growth back by 7 months. That's because Valve rolled out an update on October the 23rd that allows you to trade 5 covert quality weapon skins for knives and gloves. So you could trade these items, 5 covert quality weapon skins for the knives and gloves, 5 red for 1 knife. All right, so again, I don't know anything about this world. Wasn't there a trailer the other day? Somebody pulled it up. Where? Somebody find me the clip of, oh hell, dude. Oh, dude. He's been in a lot of movies, but the only one I can think of right now is Brokeback Mountain. He was showing off the knives. He was showing, somebody pull that up. Where's that video at?
My stepper gon' brush him if I press the button too drippy to scuffle. The blick in the duffel, it came with a muzzle, so why would I?
In the last 24 hours alone, this change has seen some knives drop by as much as 43% in value, while covert skins have risen as much as 67%. It's a worrying sign for traders, with many waking up to find the value of their inventories plummeting by thousands of dollars, but the dust still hasn't settled. To put it into perspective how much of a drop the market has seen, only 6 hours ago, the cap was at 5.02 billion. However, not everyone is convinced that the update is as bad as traders are making it out to be. And that's what we're seeing is a classic case of market hysteria. Dude, this is a video game. What is happening here? Talk to me, guys. Knife skins. They're the most valuable thing in CS2. It's the knives that are the most valuable, correct? What is the value of these knife skins? Some are $20,000, and you could just trade them. Where does this transaction take place? Hold on. An AK sold for $1 million? Where did these transactions, where did they take place? At Steam and third-party websites? Who the f do someone has to wire this money? What do you, okay, so like I have a knife you want, and you have $1 million. I say, hey man, I got the knife for you. Wire me the money. I trade and they wire at the same time? Like, how's this work? As broken down by FloatDB, a third-party skin database, there are 20 million covert skins in circulation, excluding knives and gloves, which rises to 29 million if every single lower tier skin were to be traded. In the unlikely scenario that all of these covert skins are then traded for knives and gloves, that would double the supply from 5.5 million to 11 million. Ooh. This is the worst case scenario, and even then, knives and gloves would still be among the rarest items in the game. So with this in mind, you would expect the market cap to level out and reclaim some of its lost value after the initial panic. In fact, while writing this article, the market cap increased slightly to 4.4 billion. But again, not everyone is convinced. Former head of gaming at YouTube, Ryan Wyatt, suggests that the driving factor in this decline isn't the update itself, but traders losing trust in Valve. I think it actually has much less to do with supply shock than it does that Valve can and will unilaterally make dev decisions that can wipe billions in market cap. Wyatt responded, it's more of a confidence issue. It's this today, what tomorrow. Many have been championing for Valve to drastically overhaul the Counter-Strike skin market for the better part of a decade, arguing that it's gotten far too expensive for the average player. So hold on. You play the game. You then open, I'm assuming, loot boxes. And they have a chance of producing a skin that could go all the way up to $1 million or more. How is the game not full of bots? Oh my God, dude. I'd have 100 accounts a day playing every single day, just run around fucking, you know what I'm saying? It is full of bots. I mean, how can it not be? Damn, brother. Look no further than the souvenir AWP Dragon Lore, which is selling for $500,000, or the factory new AK-47 Blue Gem that's sold for over $1 million. But whether this is the solution is another debate entirely, as even those on the side of making skins more readily available aren't convinced that this addresses the root problems with CS2's market. So you're telling me you could play the game right now, and if there is a lottery chance that you get this factory new AK-47 Blue Gem to drop, and you could sell that bitch for over $1 million, why would you play anything else? I mean, you know what I'm saying? You don't even gotta like the game. Somebody right now is playing every single day, 26 hours a day, fucking hoping they get this thing. but you got to buy the cases for the chance to get them. Oh my God, are you serious? Hold on. You're telling me the cases that you open, the loot boxes, you have to buy them with real money? Like actual money? It's literally gambling. What? You guys got to be careful with this stuff. I don't know if anybody right now, I don't play this game. This is just mind blowing to me. My boomer brain can't even comprehend this shit. Be careful, fellas. All right? You got to be careful, man. Tim, Nate, Shot, and Shroud, and some other big guys opened like 10,000 worth of cases before. Look, the problem, look. I'm not saying Tim, Shroud, or Nate Shot did anything wrong. You know, I mean, they probably just playing the game. But I would be very careful about all that kind of stuff. But for instance, if I wanted to really like hype up buying these loot boxes, and if I was a developer, I would give loot boxes to certain streamers. I would even tweak the drop chances for them individually so that there's an appearance of, oh, wow, this shit drops on a regular basis. I'm not saying they do that. It's probably, you know what I mean? I'm probably completely about you. But I'm just saying, that's illegal, isn't it? Brother, this whole system should be illegal, man. This is still, some of you, most of you in here, I'd say are responsible. However, I guarantee there is someone or someone's out there that has lost everything to this shit. That has literally probably went out, maxed out multiple credit cards, thinking that they're just like, just one more pool, one more slot pool. I'm gonna get that $1 million skin, one more pool. Coffeezilla did a CSGO casino that paid streamers to fake winning ultra rare items. Hold on. Let me find this. Oh my God, you're right. There's a video. It's a 40-minute long video from Coffeezilla on the dark side of Counter-Strike 2.
They have made millions and millions of euros. I'm going to be delivering justice to these motherfuckers.
I get told that they had posted flyers everywhere in my city. And I mean everywhere. High schools, malls.
They need to go in, even if there's a security guard, even if they're gonna be taken away. If somebody goes home walking, they will be fired.
They sent 18 people outside my door having a quote-unquote protest.
We are having war with other sites as well. Most of the CSGO gambling sites are scams.
I want to know who's really behind this thing, who's really the victims, and who's really the villain.
In our last video, we got bribed, but instead of taking it, we exposed the people who offered it. Now it's time to expose the rest of the Counter-Strike gambling industry and the influencers who promote it for millions a year. Let's start with the basics of what Counter-Strike gambling really is, though. Counter-Strike is a first-person shooter video game where you can buy cosmetic options for your guns called skins. You can get these by paying $2.50 to open a loot box. It spins like a slot machine, and you get a random skin. There's an entire economy that's grown out of their rarity, and you can sell these skins for pennies or up to tens of thousands.
Oh my God, dude. Holy shit, these prices.
Dollars depending on their rarity. You can then take those skins to Counter-Strike casinos where they will be accepted as currency instead of cash. They use their real-world value to turn this video game into Vegas. You can play slots, roulette, and more, all with a video game skin. Think of it like their version of poker chips. And when I first began to investigate this, I thought, why don't people just use a regular casino? You know, why use Counter-Strike skins for this? Well, I decided to investigate by interviewing a bunch of people who do use Counter-Strike casinos, and I found a disturbing trend.
I've been in the gambling community in Counter-Strike for about, I'd say since 12 years old.
I started gambling on Counter-Strike when I was probably 13 years old.
13 years old. 14 years old.
I think I was 14.
Holy shit, dude. You can get underage kids. Oh my Lord.
Started gambling on CSGO at the age of 12 and 13, pretty much right around there, my 13th birthday.
Yeah, most of the people I spoke to started gambling underage, and it was while they were playing the game. And this trend continues beyond the anecdotal. This YouTuber named Jeff surveyed over 9,000 players, and he found that around 70% of Counter-Strike gamblers start underage. Now, themed casinos have always had an audience, but with Counter-Strike, there is an underage gateway to all of this because all you need is $2.50 to get your first skin through Valve, and you don't even need to show ID, which is a huge part of this. Even worse, when you go from the game to the casinos, which are hosted on third-party websites, most don't ID the players either. Or if they do, it's only after you've already gambled thousands of dollars, which is a bit like if a liquor store asked for ID after you drank 10 bottles of liquor. It's obviously absurd, but it's also very profitable because underage gamblers not only are new customers, they're way more likely to become gambling addicts, which is how casinos make most of their money. These days, most physical casinos have a strict ID policy at the door. This isn't because they're good people, it's because they're heavily regulated and would lose their gambling license if they knowingly allowed underage players. But Counter-Strike gambling is fundamentally different. Regulation for these casinos is almost non-existent because they're offshore in Malta, Curacao, Cyprus, and most of them are using loopholes to pretend that this isn't even gambling at all. Look, I'm not going to go into too much detail here because different casinos use different loopholes, but suffice to say, this has been going on a long time. Back in 2016, a very similar story broke in a big way about scam casinos and underage gambling problems in Counter-Strike, and everyone was understandably enraged. Valve even got involved, had to send out cease and desist letters. Even the FTC went after influencers, but when the dust settled, there weren't that many consequences. Part of the reason was because of these loopholes. In fact, the most infamous casino, CSGO Lotto, claimed not even to be a casino at all. They said they were a sweepstakes. Now, this is obviously absurd. It's not true, but none of that matters because it got them out of trouble. And so the same types of casinos have continued, just with new owners and new names. What you're left with then is an industry that is unregulated, if anything, self-regulated, which I discovered creates its own race to the bottom problem, because consumer protection in an unregulated market will literally drive away your customers. For example, remember Monarch from the last video and his casino CSGO Empire? One of the things they do that I actually think is good is they block certain IPs where gambling is illegal, and they admit that what they're doing is gambling. Now, you can easily get around these geo restrictions with a VPN, but it's sort of an extra hurdle. Most Counter-Strike casinos don't even do this. And listen to one gambler explain why this tiny decision to just geo-block one region, the US, affected who he chose to gamble with.
So when I went onto Empire, while it's still easy to bypass it, you can just put a VPN, just takes an extra 5 minutes. CSGO Roll, I can just, once again, type it into my browser. Deposits.
Oh, you're an American.
Yes, correct, yes.
So no VPN restriction, no geo-blocking.
Yes, correct. So on Roll, 0 VPN blocking, 0 any bypassing. On Empire, there is blocking, but it truthfully is very easy to bypass.
Right. That makes sense. Most people end up going with the casino who asks them less questions, requires less from you. Even if you're not illegally trying to gamble, you just don't want to have to put in personal information, anything like that. This all taught me that in the world of unregulated gambling, it's more complicated than just saying, okay, casinos want toddlers gambling. It's also market dynamics, right? You get a competitive edge by not regulating. Less work, more customers, more money, which means you can't just solve the problem by wagging your finger at bad casinos. The entire system is broken. As long as these loopholes exist, why would anyone change? In fact, some websites like Clash.gg even advertise their lack of regulation as a feature, not a bug. The CEO even bragged on Twitter, quote, "Clash just paid out its biggest one-time cash out instantly with no verification. Couldn't be more happy with the product and reputation."
Of around 250,000 coins tonight instantly with no verification. Holy shit. Dude. What is that in IRL money? I don't know. So, but the main thing is like, this is targeting underage kids who, I mean, who knows how many mom and dad credit cards get maxed out on this shit. And then also like, how many of these websites are just outright scams to begin with? Unless they just get a fee for overseeing the transaction.
We are building. This guy sees it as a badge of honor to do no checks. And it is a positive reputation if you want to appeal to underage players, money launderers, or just people who want to avoid a hassle, a VPN and putting in an ID. And this is all a huge problem. But how big of a problem is it? You might wonder. After all, we're talking about video game skins. How much money could this industry really be worth? I wondered the same thing. So I asked around for how much these casinos are making and got several estimates. One owner claims he has an 8-figure business, and someone who worked for his partner claims that is true. How much does he make on Clash?
His partner, Boris, right, also known as Dogs Playing Poker, Friendly Chemist, he told me directly that it was making about $50 million a month.
That's a lot of money.
What?
And this roughly matches what...
Luke, we're getting into CSGO, baby. Luke, start the website now. We're churning butter. Luke, get it going.
The popular gambling Counter-Strike YouTuber told me as well, saying he'd estimate these sites are making tens of millions monthly. And there are so many of these sites that the YouTuber Jeff estimated it all in a different way, looking at the total amount of website traffic compared to a popular online casino.
So when you bring them together, those CSGO websites bring almost double the traffic of the biggest online casino today. And this online casino declared a gross revenue of 2.6 billion in 2022. Now, that doesn't mean the CSGO websites are grossing more, but it's a great element to put things in perspective.
So even though it's tough getting an exact number since these casinos might overestimate or underestimate for many reasons, either way, it's clear these businesses are making huge amounts of money. And there's many of these casinos. We've just focused on a few in our videos, but there's so many more of these websites, each potentially making millions a month. And no one's gonna change their behavior until they're incentivized to by regulation across the board. Until then, less regulation will always mean a wider customer base, even if some of those customers are underage. The irony here being, the biggest voice of change so far really has been Monarch. From the last video, you guys know I am no fan of this guy's methods, but I'll be honest, there's large parts of his public arguments that are hard to argue with. He claims to understand the underage problem because that's how he started as well.
How I got into gambling myself was when I was 13 and I was playing RuneScape, and how the duel arena was like a gateway drug for me.
Oh my God!
That's how gambling started for me, and that's where it went into third-party sites.
Yes. No. He's right about that. He's right about that. RuneScape Duel Arena, you can go from rags to riches back the other way so fast in a day. You can have all the money in the game and you can lose it within an hour.
I'm just disgusted about this whole loop. I think that the full case system on Steam is pretty horrible. The way how there is no KYC, there's it's such a powerful tool.
Keep in mind, RuneScape, the way it would work is you would do boxing fights, right? So it'd be you and another guy. You put up a mill, they put up a mill, and you just punch the shit out of each other. Whoever wins gets the money.
For getting children and even adults, I think even adults, they have a gambling problem. It's not only like it's not a age exclusive thing. It's just a machine that makes people gamble. Imagine there's a kid who just plays CSGO and they open one box. Pretty innocent. They get their mom's credit card. They spend €2 to open a box. Okay, then they open a second box, third box, fourth box, and so on. And soon they see their favorite influencer playing on some third-party case opening site. And this is where it's like switching from weed straight to, I don't know, amphetamine or something, and they just go deeper and deeper into this rabbit hole, and soon they are addicted. And the next thing you know, when they want to stop gambling, it's easy to just close these websites. But what happens when you go on social media? You go on YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, any platform. What do you get? You get gambling ads everywhere. The algorithm.
I guarantee you, I'm gonna after talking about this today and watching this video, we're gonna start seeing so much stuff pop up on our feed for all of this.
Starts feeding you. It's like, imagine you are addicted to heroin, and then everywhere you go, you just see like heroin. Here, look, your hero is taking heroin.
So we have to separate these two things out. Yes, this guy's methods are terrible, but I'll admit, it's nice to see a casino owner talking honestly about their industry and admitting that what it is gambling and not some kind of sweepstakes. But even if Monarch says he wants to change, without the actual power of a regulator, he just ends up having to harass people, threaten people, which isn't going to get him anywhere. Not only that, he's no saint either. His own website doesn't ID people right away. According to CSGO's Empire's terms, they only require you to verify your age if you want to withdraw more than 2,000 coins in crypto or deposit substantial amounts of money. If you withdraw via skins, there is no limit. So even the guy who claims he started underage gambling, he understands the gateway drug that skin betting websites act as, Even he refuses to fully ID customers because he knows he'd go out of business.
I'm really committed to, I want to make it stricter and stricter. Like, you can't jump to the deep end just like immediately on one day. That would make us go out of business. But really my end goal is I want to do full-blown KYC before anybody deposits. I want to make it as clean as possible.
This, more than anything, shows the limit to the let's self-regulate idea, right? Even the biggest critic of underage gambling can't bring himself to actually ID his customers up front because his competitors won't do it, and he says it would ruin his business. So maybe the solution isn't with the casinos at all. Maybe it's a good time to talk about the influencers who promote it instead. Because when I learned and asked about people who got into this type of gambling, I wondered, how did they get into it in the first place? Who did they hear about it from? And one thing kept popping up.
One of the primary ways I actually learned was through YouTube. It popped up in my recommended page because I was a big fan of Counter-Strike. I'd play it, in my free time. Some gambling videos popped up and I thought, hey,
Streamers kind of exposed me to that space first.
I saw it online. I saw a bunch of these YouTubers playing it.
Found out CSGO gambling just pretty much through watching people on Twitch and YouTube. Juicy was one of them. I actually remember very vividly. He was this guy that would do all these case openings on different websites and such. He was very much affiliated with them. He had codes and all of these things.
I've been surrounded by like Syndicate and like FaZe Clan, for example.
I watched my favorite YouTubers.
Right. YouTubers and streamers, of course, are going to be one of the main advertising vectors. It's been that way since 2016. Influencers are the main lifeblood of these casinos. Fast forward 8 years later, it's just different influencers, different casinos making the money than before. But unlike casinos who we know intuitively are blood-sucking leeches on society, influencers, by contrast, well, we expect more from them. We don't get it, but we expect more. So I wanted to confront.
Look, here's the thing. Like, it's all bad, but you shouldn't be able to do it if you're underage. You just can't. Because, at that age, and yes, I went through my stages with RuneScape. Even as an adult, I went through my stage. But, when you're young like that, things just hit differently. And yes, you can create an addiction right on the spot. And look, I got a grandfather. He's a therapist and family counselor. He's been doing it my whole life. And to this day, he says the most damaging addiction is a gambling addiction. And I know we gamble in here. We've got eggplant bets, but you guys can't redeem eggplants for fucking money. It's just eggplants. You can redeem it for like raiding someone or something within the stream, but it's not redeemable for money. If suddenly we found out that there was some black market eggplant bullshit happening, we would have to kill that shit. But you can redeem it for a build battle, which could get you a headset. That's fucking elaborate. You know what I mean? That's a lot of hoops.
Influencers who do this gambling streaming stuff of different sizes and get their opinions on why they promote this stuff and how they can possibly justify it.
I don't think people should gamble, honestly, on the sites. They shouldn't gamble at all. But I enjoy doing it, so it's what I do. If that makes any sense. I don't know.
No. That part of it makes sense. That the part where you want to do it so you continue to do it, that makes sense. But let's say I'm like, I don't think smoking is good for you, but I like smoking. It makes sense that I would smoke. It doesn't make sense that I would go promote it to get people to smoke.
Yeah, no.
That actually happened though, right? Didn't they have a bunch of doctors way back when they were essentially doing all kinds of research on how smoking affects you and lung cancer and all that stuff. And they would have doctors come on and smoke and be like, this is perfectly healthy. You know what I mean?
I definitely understand that perspective too. And it's a very good argument, and it's like, you can't really argue against it, right? It's not a good thing, but it's something that I still enjoy doing, and so I'm going to continue to do it.
Is it just too much money? That's an acceptable answer. It's just too much money to turn down.
I'd say in the beginning it probably was too much money. At this point, it's not about the money for me. It's just I really enjoy doing it.
Well, in the videos, I don't sugarcoat. I don't try to convince people that winning or gambling is a way or a solid option to flip a quick buck. Even in my wins, I preface that this is not a sustainable thing. So it's not something that I necessarily, I don't know. You can watch the videos and decide for yourself if it feels like promotion, but that's how I reason it to myself. I don't even, use the rewards. I don't advertise it at all. So I don't, the rewards thing, it's more of like I said, I don't advertise it. So
Brother, they're stumbling, man. They're stumbling. Look, if you just looked at the camera and said, look, we're making so much goddamn money off this shit. I mean, fucking loads of money off of this shit. I know this is terrible, but we are making just stacks. You know what I'm saying? At least you're upfront about it.
But you do advertise. You get paid to advertise it, right?
Not the reward system. No, I don't mention the rewards.
No. I'm saying CS:GO roll.
Yes.
We're talking about the gambling side.
Yes.
We both know it's not going to be good for people. And then you're kind of saying, well, I don't really promote it. I don't really advertise it. But in a way, if you didn't promote or advertise it, they wouldn't pay you millions of dollars.
Yeah, I watched your Trainwrecks video and you said the same thing. You're like the less dirtier of the dirt bags. So I guess I would call myself that. And ultimately, if you watch the video, you can decide like how less dirty is he really. But yeah, that's my answer.
Most people are going to, unfortunately, gamble with or without certain streamers, right? Obviously, it's intended to be like a McDonald's ad. You see a McDonald's ad, you see a Big Mac, you're going to go, I'm craving a Big Mac. So it's the same concept.
You're saying like, oh, I'm just like kind of promoting.
But you can't lose your mortgage to Big Macs. I mean, maybe you can, but that's a lot of fucking Big Macs.
McDonald's, whatever.
No, it's not. It's not like promoting McDonald's. Let's be honest. Gambling is a terrible addiction. My closest friend has a very, very bad gambling addiction. He'll get paid on, let's say, a Tuesday, and by Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, his whole paycheck is gone for 2 weeks, and then he has no money. And no matter what I do to intervene to help that individual try to hold his money, to help him sit there and self-exclude, he finds ways, because it's an addiction. It's just as bad as any other drug because of that dopamine rush.
Yeah, the answers were part admissions, part rationalizations. They all knew gambling was bad.
I've talked about my Aunt B before, guys. I had an Aunt B, and her husband passed away, left her a lot of money, and she was pretty much set for life. And for whatever reason, she got into going to the casino. And it started off as just every now and then to, weekly. And then it was just living at the casino. And she lost everything, man. Everything. Yeah, it's rough, dude. Gambling is extremely damaging.
But they'd stop short of actually doing something about it because they were making money from it, even when they knew people whose own lives were hurt by it. So if you know the harm firsthand, you've seen it in your own life, how do you justify peddling that drug, as you call it?
It's going to happen, in my opinion, right? And like, there is no justification. Can I say like I'm a drug dealer? Sure, you could, you're going to label, certain streamers are going to be labeled as a drug dealer. In essence, and that's okay, I guess, if people are going to view it that way. I mean, I want to know how you view it. How I feel,
because you said it was kind of like a drug. So I want.
It is a drug. I mean, it hits the dopamine levels. Hell, I get hit in dopamine levels if I hit big. And so and then that becomes a YouTube trick. I feel bad. I do, right? I hate to hear when people say I've lost money. I hate it, dude. I really, it crushes me because some people legit do it because they're bored and then they lose everything they have. And it is a terrible feeling to hear that, right?
Not to question their sincerity, but I've heard all of them say that they hate when people get addicted. They don't want to see anyone hurt, but they refuse to stop even though they know casinos are run on addicts. Fun fact, Clash.gg, who earlier we had their CEO admitting he was proud of not IDing players, also admitted that the majority of their revenue comes from a tiny fraction of their most addicted players.
Damn.
Quote, less than 1% of Clash accounts make up 80% of our revenue. It's just an admission from their founder. It's an open secret. So these influencers can empathize about how horrible addiction is, but they know that's where their paycheck comes from. The CEO of Clash has a profile on Twitter that says, never gamble, the house always wins. But ironically, his house is probably from people gambling. The fact of the matter is that these people say with their mouth, I feel terrible, I feel bad, but when it comes to actually changing, they never do. Even when they directly scam people, they will still find a way to rationalize it. And this next...
Yeah, we rag Destiny hard, but it is less financially impactful than some of these games that do promote gambling, for sure. Yeah, this is just crazy. And listen, I'm not saying it's okay if it's 18 and plus, but it's a hell of a lot better than letting young kids do it. The thing about RuneScape and gambling, though, all of that, it all took place. So, like, you gambled your gold in your in-game gold, or even your items at like Duel Arena against other players. And normally, if you lost it all, you would go buy gold from like a gold farming site. I'm not saying that people didn't spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. I don't think people spent... I could be wrong. I would have to look up RuneScape, but I would be very surprised if someone could spend thousands upon thousands of dollars on RuneScape gold. Could be wrong, though. Whatever happened to personal accountability and parenting? The problem is that, for instance, maybe you have a kid. They're 13, 14. They get into this. They start developing a gambling addiction. You finally catch it. You intervene. You tell them no. For most, maybe that kid's fine. They move on. Maybe they pick up another game. They're good. But for others, maybe that kid that has now taken root in them. And then maybe they return to that when they're 18 plus, maybe when they have their own job. And then they could be in a situation where every week they do get paid or whatever. Their paycheck just goes straight into that over and over. If a parent sees their 13-year-old making millions, they won't stop them. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. You guys act like everybody's just making millions off of CSGO skins. Okay. Look, for every one person that's making bank, how many are losing their asses? I'm not saying that there isn't someone out there making some money, but how many? I mean, what's the ratio here?
Next part is pretty dark, but for a moment, we're gonna have to go back for a second.
Shit,
to
this
the
video's
PGL
already
major
dark.
Tournament and talk about the thing I was originally offered a bounty to investigate. A specific casino that is owned by the same group as CSGO Roll, but this one is called Hype Drop. It's owned by Monarch's arch nemesis. Hype Drop was a casino where instead of gambling Counter-Strike skins, you could gamble real-world items, like real-world loot boxes. For example, you could pay for a real loot box that would get you anything from like a $10 gift card to a Lamborghini, for example. It's just gambling with physical items. But the real secret sauce of this website was a loyalty program called the Daily Cases, where the more you spent, the higher level you got, the more you'd get these daily cases, which essentially were free money. Every single day, you could go on their website and open these daily cases, and theoretically, you'd get free stuff, free money, which, if that sounds unsustainable, it is. It was all part of a scheme, it turns out, to make the Danish government believe that Hype Drop was not actually gambling. I received a letter Hype Drop gave to the Danish regulator arguing players could not lose money on their site because over time, the daily cases paid back all the losses over roughly 3 years. This is one of those loopholes we talked about where they're going to argue they're not actually gambling because you can't lose. Now, of course, I asked Hype Drop about this, and initially they denied ever sending this letter. Eventually, I showed them that I had their document, and they finally confessed, saying they did do it on one occasion, but denied trying to pass it off as an investment. They then quickly scurry away saying, "This is our last comment." I bet it is, because they got caught making bad faith arguments to the Danish government. This type of loophole is why in their promotional material, Hype Drop said things like, "Yes, you'll always make at least your money back," and quote, "We offer return on what you invest through our daily reward system," and quote, "It's a win-win situation every time." Now, it only takes a few moments to realize that offering jackpots and money back to losers isn't gonna work. It has to be a scam, which is why many people like Monarch called this thing an unsustainable Ponzi scheme. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but he's right. On March 27th, 2024, Killian, the owner, announced that he was shutting down the site, effectively rug pulling his customers, who were all relying on these daily cases to make their losses back. This is part of what Monarch's paid goons were yelling about at the PGL majors. By removing their daily cases, Hype Drop, in my opinion, stole from their users and effectively revealed their legal loophole to be a lie. Now, with that all understood, let's circle back to this guy, Juicy, a gambling streamer who we heard from earlier. He was easily one of the biggest promoters of Hype Drop, and I wanted to know, given that he has widely promoted a scam, What was he going to do to make things right? So let's talk about hype drop at this point. This has been kind of what precipitated the PGL majors, according to Monarch. He says, I had to protest hype drop. It was a Ponzi scheme that collapsed, and CSGO rolls next. Now, when I was looking up hype drop, you were one of the people who was promoting it, like one of the bigger YouTubers I saw, maybe the biggest. Yeah. What's your take on promoting this stuff? Where's your ethical line for what you will take, what you won't take on?
Yeah. So to my understanding, I had never worked with a gambling site that had rewards that function like a Ponzi scheme, you know? So when I was playing on it, I'm not promoting the rewards, you know? I'm not like, this is the most rewarding IRL gambling site. So I was just playing with the product itself and, you know, making content around that.
That's all you have to do. Yeah, you don't have to do what? I can't even what was he saying? That's all you have to do. You just play. Yeah, you just play in front of people. Therefore, someone out there will see that and then they will play. How's that? That's still promotion. You don't have to know every object that could be a reward.
So obviously it's really annoying and bullshit when the rewards get, first off, cut down, and then second off, now there is no reward offering and the site's going away. Like, I'm obviously very upset, not just for my own intent, but also mainly for the people who, especially if people put money into hype drop, thinking of it like a good monetary investment versus like, I'm just gambling, you know? I'm pretty sure from my understanding, that wasn't like a advertised thing. At least they weren't advertising. They weren't saying, hey, you got to tell them about this great investment option. I think that was more of a legal loophole that they were, you know, trying to operate.
He's just lying about some of this. He says he didn't advertise his daily cases, but I think he didn't think I'd watch his videos because he definitely did.
Daily reminder, claim your daily cases. They're free monies. Code JUICY will get you 3 free cases, so might as well. I mean, my daily cases used to pay a filthy amount of money. It was a full-time income just claiming them. Claim this every day, dude, and we're making a full-time salary every month.
Yeah, he calls the daily cases basically a full-time salary. But I thought surely after seeing that Hype Drop scammed people, he would cancel his sponsorship with the same company. Like, it's the sister casino CSGO Roll, right? He has to stop that now that he's scammed his audience. He didn't cancel it, right? So let me ask you, does that mean you're no longer going to work with CSGO Roll since they're run by the same people?
Well, I've already promoted the site and I already have fans who use the site. And I don't think the reward offering there is going to change. But yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that they did that.
I think you can see the logic of no one thought Hype Drop was going to rug people from these cases, these daily rewards. And if you are regretful, wouldn't that turn into some kind of action on your part to like change who you're working with?
Yeah, I understand that completely. But I feel like Counter-Strike sites aren't there to stay forever in the first place. I don't think anyone's expecting them to stay forever. And there really isn't many great options. So yeah, maybe it's...
Isn't that even worse? Hold on. Isn't that even worse? So is he essentially saying that they're all going to eventually rug pull? That sounds even worse, man. Quote, I understand that completely, but I like money.
Top of me that I continue to do so. Absolutely. But it really is one of the better options on the market right now. And there's a ton of dog shit on the market. So, yeah.
And there it is. Absolutely, he doesn't want to change. Absolutely, he's not going to stop what he's doing. At the end of the day, past all the rationalizations, that's what it comes down to. It doesn't matter what you show them, what you prove to them. They're making too much money. And that is the part that I was struggling to like really get from these people. Is they would always say, like, I do it for the love of gambling, man. I would do it if nobody paid me. Of course, they always do it getting paid. But this is the single biggest cope of gambling streamers. In fact, even Grim told me this, who we spoke to earlier about getting harassed. Luckily for me, though, his tax records are public. So I knew that he was actually making a few $1 million a year and had a few million reasons to lie about why he was doing what he did. So I decided to ask him if maybe the money did play a role. Somebody reached out to me. They said, hey, I found Grim's business. He made $5 million last year. Is that true? And does that undermine what you said about it's not about the money?
Yeah, no, that is true. What's one of the, I guess, the downsides with Norway is everything's public. If they know my company name, even just my name, they Google around, they find it. So like everything that I make is public. And yeah, you could say that the argument is obviously hypocritical because like I made a lot of money, but like I don't do it because I make a lot of money. I'd still do it if I didn't make a lot of money. And like even if I wasn't paid, I would still do it when I had excess money to do it because I like doing it. And it might like sound like a lie, but that's how I started it. And that's how I always wanted to continue.
It sounds like the $5 million might have something to do with it.
But definitely not. Nothing has that $5 million has nothing to do with it whatsoever. It's for the love of the game, everybody. It's for the love of gambling.
That's fine. I mean,
yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I 100% understand what people would think like, oh, no, it's only because of the money. But like, I know myself that it isn't only because of the money, but it's obviously great. Don't get me wrong.
How much did you make this year?
I'd rather not say, but I could say it's a lot.
Come on, Juicy, tell us. Tell us. Look,
so I actually don't know the exact answer myself, but I can tell you it's going to be right around Grimm's number, which I know he told you already.
Grimm's $5 million.
Yeah, and then I got to pay a stupid tax rate on that.
Oh my God! Whoa, hold the fuck up. You're making $5 million off of skins and whatever else happening, and then you're complaining about paying taxes on it? You gotta be shitting me. Brother, who's gonna have your back on that? Who? Oh, woe is me. You gotta pay 37%.
But it's probably around there.
Both made about $5 million last year. So it's kind of obvious why they're not going to stop based on just a moral argument. And I began to wonder, like, how many of these influencers take these deals because they are so profitable? Well, luckily, thanks to the hard work of Jeff, who we mentioned earlier, whose documentary you should definitely go watch, I found out it's almost everyone.
This is the top 300 CSGO streamers since the beginning of this year, ranked by watch time. Of 300, 226 are currently sponsored by at least one of them. Some have up to 5. We are looking at 75%.
75%. It's insane. Counter-Strike gambling is basically funding over half of the scene with these ridiculous paychecks. And I began to wonder, not about the people who said yes, but the people who said no. They're the minority. I wanted to know, for the people who said no, how much were they offered and why didn't they take it?
This is something I think about a lot, because there have even been moments in time where I've been offered $300,000 for a month of gambling, $5,000 an hour. That could change my life. That could retire my mom. That could alter my family's lineage, but I keep turning it down. That was when I was an even smaller streamer than now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Hey man, good on you though. You hear me? Good on you, dude.
One of the things I've been thinking a lot about is like how to change this, you know, if what does even change look like, right? That's part of what I'm thinking about. It's like, what does even change look like for this industry? And one thing that I came to is like, the incentives have to change because they're so out of whack. The second you allow gambling sponsorships and streamers to like get sponsorship deals, how are you going to stop someone from taking that amount of money? You're a good person, so you just don't want to do it. That's your personal line. But I think it's hard for just even somebody who's a good person to say no. You know, it's only because you know what it would do to people.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not saying that this should be allowed in any way, but where it is a hard cutoff for me is if you're under 18. That's, you know what I mean? When you got, because look, kids at that age, they can become addicted like that, dude. And I'm not saying it can't affect an adult, but it's just that age where those type of things can become embedded, and that's it. It needs to be across the board for every site, because I think there's just so much damn money in it. I don't know if I don't think it's ever going to go away, but it all needs to be regulated, and it all needs to be 18 plus.
But that is such a crazy amount of money. You know, this interview almost ruined me on this story. I began to wonder if change was even possible when money like this is in the field for play? Like, the casinos aren't going to regulate themselves because they lose customers and there's so much money at stake. Most influencers aren't going to say no because there's so much money at stake and they could change their life and their family's lives by
18 plus, more like 30 and plus. Honestly, you guys are going to like this. I think across the board, there's a lot of things that should be raised to 25 plus. And when does the male brain stop? Okay, so it actually says, if I Google it right now, male brain stops maturing around age 30. Okay, I thought it was 24. Prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for complex tasks like planning, prioritize, impulse control. Impulse control is one of the last to fully develop and mature around age 25. I'm just saying, man. I mean, again, some of you guys are under 25 and like f that, but I think like across the board for a lot of things. You know what I mean? Just go to 25 plus. Impulse control, is that even a relevant concept at age 13? No. Hell no. That's why this is so dangerous. That's why shit like this is so dangerous, man.
Taking these deals. The more I looked into it, you can't expect all the people to be immune from this influence all at the same time, which is the only way to make change. It wasn't just the influencers or casinos either. Even esports, the most professional, supposedly, side of the game, was flooded with gambling. Almost every professional team had a gambling sponsor. For example, FaZe's Rollbit, the PGL Major was sponsored by 1xBet, G2 was sponsored by CSGO Roll, and this creates the same problem that it created with the influencers. If a sponsor is offering you buckets of money, it becomes really hard not to take, because if you don't take it, your competitor will.
Yep.
In fact, one esports owner argued the entire ecosystem in Counter-Strike, especially in the lower leagues, is basically funded by the gambling industry and gambling addicts. So I called him to understand more of how this works. Can you walk me through how gambling functions in the esports economy?
The issue is that, or the issue, I guess, at hand that you're talking about is that this activity is enabled by more controversial sponsors in gambling and skin rolling sites. If those sponsors weren't permitted, then the tier 2 and beyond scene in CS specifically would likely wither or die, or at the very least constrict to a very large degree. So that's what I meant by my tweet that you should thank your local betting crackhead in Twitch chat. If you're a fan of tier 2 CS and beyond, then the reason you're watching that team play is probably because of that better. To note, this is also true of a lot of orgs' profitability. So the value that traditional sponsors bring in for a tier 2 org, even more, with G2 and Rollbit, for example, the value that a traditional sponsor brings in versus a Gamba sponsor is like 15 or 20% of the value. So you don't really turn that down as an org owner unless you've got very specific moral qualms or disagree with gambling on a personal level.
But does this inflate the economy where if you're not taking a gambling sponsorship, you're almost at a disadvantage because your economics and what you're able to play players and attract talent is much less than somebody who, for example, has a gambling deal and is making way more money than you?
Yeah, to a degree, that's true, I think. Very, very few organizations are able to do it without Gamba. Largely, if you don't have Gamba, you're almost certainly going to be unprofitable.
You heard it there. You almost can't compete at the highest level without a gambling sponsor because they pay so much more than everyone else. And if everyone else is doing it, they will have more money to spend on a team than you and get better players and therefore likely beat you. There's just no more profitable sponsor to turn to. And so a lot of people actually take the money. So even if that sponsor is a site that allows minors to play with no ID, who cares? Just slap an 18 plus sticker in your ad for them and get plausible deniability. That's what G2 did when announcing their CSGO Roll sponsorship. A depressing fact about this video is the star of it, a guy named Monasi, turned 18 only days before they announced the sponsorship, which means in the video, it was filmed when he was 17. He was underage in their casino, supposedly 18 plus, and no one cared. A perfect metaphor for this entire industry. It's all optics. I have to tell you, by the way, the exact day I announced I was investigating Counter-Strike gambling, CSGO Roll did announce for the first time that they were going to be asking all users to prove that they're 18 before playing. Whether or not it's coincidence, they announced it same day. I don't know. Take it for what it is. Maybe it's a token gesture, they'll roll back. Or maybe it's a sudden change of heart for the youth. I don't know. Either way, the point I'm making is that for many people and professional teams, the choice to take a gambling sponsorship is like the choice for PEDs in the Olympics or steroids in the WWE. You can say no, but if everyone else is using them and getting ahead, you choosing not to for ethical reasons will get you left behind, and your peers will become more successful than you. It's a depressing cycle that has me flashing back to the CSGO Wild days several years ago and realizing we're right where we started. CSGO Wild in 2016 was a gambling website secretly owned, slightly disputed, by FaZe Clan. And according to FaZe Banks, his motivation to do that was pretty simple.
My motivation for doing it actually was at the time we weren't making enough money to buy a CSGO team. All in, the venture was going to cost us like $1 million, and we definitely did not have anything close to that. So my brain, like we got to finesse it. We got to figure out how to make the money to buy this team now, because in the next 6 months, year, this team's gonna be worth like $4 or $5 million, and we're not gonna be able to get into this game, which in our heads we need to get in this game.
Yeah, when you hear it, it sounds crazy. It sounds like a cope, but his plan actually worked. FaZe got away with it. FaZe Clan has a Counter-Strike team that won second place in the infamous PGL Major all these years after CSGO Wild. It's alive and well, and still funded, by the way, by gambling, just by a different gambling website. Now it's Rollbit. It's reportedly a multi-million-dollar deal. Now look, I know seeing this is all very depressing, but we've actually learned some really valuable things. Firstly, we can't fix this at the individual level of influencers, esports teams, or even casinos. Doxing people, harassing them doesn't fix it or the underlying problems. It's a deep systemic problem of incentives. Of course, acknowledging that also doesn't absolve individuals. I wouldn't dare say it's okay for Juicy to do what he does, where people have been scammed and he continues to work with the same parent company. That said, if he stopped, it wouldn't change things suddenly. Someone would take his place. So if we're serious about trying to solve this problem, we have to look farther up the food chain than influencers, even than casinos, even than esports leagues. We have to zoom out and see the root cause.
Valve definitely does have underage gambling problem.
Oh my god.
They really don't have an incentive to stop it.
Underage, middle age, overage, however you want to slice it.
I think they have all the responsibility. I mean, you could pass me some of that if you want, but ultimately they're the kingpin, reaping in all of the money, or majority of the money, and there's a reason why they haven't killed it yet. They've possessed the power for all these years, but they allow it to go, and I feel like they do the bare minimum crackdown to allow it to keep operating.
Oh shit, dude. This is a great video, man. Fantastic video, dude. I cannot believe we just sat here for nearly 40 minutes. All right, I learned a lot today. Now, what does this have anything really to do with the article that we covered earlier? I don't know. I have no idea. Some people said that some of the changes that were made to skins is something to do with regulation that's coming. I have no idea. I don't know, man. I don't know. You know, it's just mind-blowing to me that these skins and everything else have this much money involved. Let's game, guys. Apologies. Man, we really went down the rabbit hole on that one. I just wasn't expecting all of this. I was not expecting all of this, but it makes sense now. It makes sense why this valuation is so damn high, because it's gambling. It's all like gambling, not just from like rolling cases or anything like that. It goes beyond that with those with the other websites that you can gamble on. Yeah, it also really makes me question how many people are playing CS for the game itself, and how many are just playing hoping to make a ton of money. You know what I'm saying? And maybe two things can be right at once, but I'm really curious about that.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.